Welcome back, coders and YouTubers alike. This is lesson 2 of my Learn Swift Quick series. In this video and in this lesson, we are going to learn about, as promised, data types. So, as you can see, I'm already in my playground. I'll give you a minute to open up your Xcode and load up the playground. You can either start a new one or you can use the one that we used yesterday. I'm just using the one we used yesterday. I may or may not use it for reference. So I'll give you a few more seconds to get ready. Okay, so
Hello, and welcome to Sheep.
So before we get to the question, the main question, and which is what is a data type, I want to lightly spend a few seconds on what we already learned yesterday. While I did show you and explain to you what a constant was, I did forget to mention the key word for a constant is let, L-E-T. Like the key word for variable is var, V-A-R. So I just wanted to put that one out there in this particular lesson. Also, if you remember, so not only did we learn what a constant was, we learned what a variable was. We learned the difference between the constant and a variable. We learned, getting all these texts off at the same time. We learned not only we learned the difference between a constant and a variable, I also taught you how the proper formation, how to write a declaration, be it for a constant or a variable. So in starting off this lesson of data types, I need you to remember the format in which I showed you how to write a proper declaration for a variable and or a constant. So if you remember, okay, that this is the keyword, this is the variable name, this is the assignment operator, and this is today's lesson, which is the data type. Okay, so how do we read this? Remember, I told you we want to read it from back to front, okay? Because the data type is assigned, okay, to the variable name. not the other way around. Okay. So the question is, what is a data type? Okay, and I got this down here to show you if you were to take data type, spread it into two words, okay, you would see, okay, that the definition infers to itself. Well, what do you mean? Well, if you remember the proper way to format a declaration, and if I were to say, okay, up here, if I were to say variable data equals type, that would be a good, okay, expression. Okay, that would be a good declaration. Okay, and how do we read it? Just like we did up here. Type is assigned to data. Okay, and if you take this assignment operator, okay, so while it's saying type assigned to data, you can also say, if you were to take out the assigned to and make it of, and you would get the definition. Type of data. So what is data type? It simply infers to, the definition infers to the word itself. It's a type of data, okay, or a classification of data, okay. And what are the classifications? Okay, what are the types? Well, let's start out with the first one, okay, and that would be a string, okay. A string is the most used data type amongst all programming languages. Okay? It's the most used data type amongst all programming languages. Um, there's so many, depending on what language, but we're learning Swift today, and we're learning data types. So my main point here is just letting you know that probably at least 50% of, if not more, of your a minimum of 50% of all of your projects um, is going to deal with strings, um, string data. Okay, and string, a string, um, basically, is simply pieces of text or text characters. Okay, words. Okay, that's it. They're text. They're words. Um, so strings, basically a piece of text. Okay. Next, data type is an integer. And an integer is a whole number, be it positive or negative. Okay, so all right. And that is shown this way in Swift. Okay. Okay. So if I happen to lose anyone when I mention the word integer and or whole numbers, um, in all humility and in all due respect, if you didn't understand integer or whole numbers, that lets me know that you probably don't have the mathematical credentials to be a programmer. So you might want to look into another trade outside of programming, because programming definitely needs past a fourth grade mathematical education. With that being said, the rest of us that did pay attention in class, okay, our next data type will be a float. And a float is a decimal. Now, a float is a decimal that is a 32-bit decimal. Okay? Its big brother is called our next data type, and that is called a double. Now, fellow programmers, if a float is 32-bit and its big brother is a double, okay, what would you assume the double is? Well, double of 32 is 64-bit. Okay? That's the difference between the float and the double. And my advice and everybody else's, every other Swift coder's advice will tell you, just use the double and call it a day. It'll save you a lot of trouble. Even when Swift infers a decimal, it always uses a double instead of a float. So, that's not protocol, but it probably will keep you from more debugging than what you'll already have to do. Moving on to our last data type, and that is a Boolean. That's how that's written in Swift. And a Boolean is either true or false or yes or no. Now, we do have special characters but those will be discussed in our lesson that is dealing strictly with optionals. So we're not going to go into the special characters today, but just know that special characters um, are a data type. Okay? So let's see. So I'm going to go up here where I said var age equals 40. Okay. So this Swift has a very intelligent AI. Okay. And as coders, we know that AI is nothing more than man-made intelligence via programming. So I remember in 2003, I made a good AI app that was called Computer Psychiatrist, and but this is not about me. Um, but it was a pretty good app. But Swift is, if I could say, uh, if I had to name a word for it or a phrase, I would say it is the language of inference because the AI is so good. I mean, it can not, it can infer. It'll tell you what you meant when you're typing. It'll infer, your code. If you were, sorry about that. If you were, um, if you were stuck, it infers and it'll tell you, look, is this what you meant? Literally. Um, so it's a really good AI, and it infers a lot. So that's why I call it the inference uh, language. For example, this where age equals 40. This Swift infers that this is that because it knows that this it's looking at this and it say, okay, this is an integer. Okay, whereas the proper way, like in Objective C, um, it's looking at it like, okay, it's looking at it like this, um, in in the C language. Okay, so it's saying this would be the proper way. Okay, bam. That's how you would write it in C. But Swift is so the AI is so good that it's like, look, I'm not retarded. I can see that this is already an integer. I know that this is an integer, so I don't need you to tell me that it's an integer. I'm good. I can infer that you are taking this integer and you're assigning it to this variable name. Okay? So I say let var age equals 40. So it knows that that's an integer. So now if I tried to make this a string, and remember down here, this is the format. That's why I wrote that down for you guys. So remember, if this was so if I try to put this as a string, it's going to come up as an error because it's like, no, you cannot assign a string to an integer, nor can you assign an integer to a string. However, you can convert a string to an integer as well as converting an integer to a string, but you cannot assign the two. Okay, so watch this. I'll get an error trying to do this. Wait a minute. I'm trying to do it the right way here. That and string. There. Space. Okay. And so it's going to say, hey, look. And what did I say? You cannot convert an integer to a string. So it's like, did you not hear your own self talk not 5 minutes ago? You can't do that. You get an error every time. That's not something you can do. So if I said age was equal to, a second here. Let's go 10. Okay, then now, what did I say? Swift is inferring, oh, you want this to be an integer. Okay, so it's outputting 10. You see that? So right now it's looking at that as a number. Okay, so I'm going to show you the difference. If I say print age, you see what I get? 10. Okay, because age is looked at as an integer. Okay, and as long as it's an integer, I can say age times age. Okay, so being that it's 10, you're saying 10 times 10, right? Because right now it's an integer and it's being inferred as an integer. Okay? Don't get confused. This is an integer. Okay? This, what is this? What did I tell you that was? I know you're saying, well, it looks like a text to me, so that should be a string. No, it can be a string if that's what you make it. It's whatever you assign it. Okay? Well, actually, since you couldn't, because if you say it's a string, it's not going to let you, because you can't assign, like I told you, you can't assign a string to an integer or vice versa. But if you take the s when you take the string out, okay, it's either being inferred by Swift that it's an integer. This could be anything. It doesn't mean it don't have, just because it's text, it doesn't mean anything. It's when you put the string, okay, keyword in there. You're saying this is a string, and that's when you're going to have a problem. You can't assign. Remember, assign uh, a string to an integer. Okay, so now it infers that age is an integer. You know, it's saying, if I put in, like I said, I put in string and you get an error because you can't do the two. So it's inferring that it's an integer. Now, I can make this part a string. Okay, watch. Bam, bam. Now I'm converting a integer to a string, which brings up an error now when I do age times age, because when it was an integer, it was 10 times 10. But now that it's a string, it's like saying Billy times Billy. It doesn't make sense. Now strings, the only thing you can do with strings as far as operational is uh, you can add them together. I was thinking about, there was another word I was going to use, concatenate or something like that, but it just means add them together. You can add the two together. Other than that, you can't use any other operations. Okay, so that's why that's there, because so that says age age. That shows you that this is now a text, because you can't multiply text, but you can add. Okay, you can't add text. Um, so I'll show you that. So remember, it was 100. Now it should say, because it's 10, it's going to say, it's going to write down that text. It's not doing anything else with it. It's not adding it together or anything. It's just writing it down. So if I say age plus age, it's just a text twice. It should be 1010. See that? 1010. That's not 1,000. That's 1010. Okay. If I put age on there again, if I add another one, it'd be 101010. Whoops, not 10. I gotta put age. Boom. See that over there? Okay. So that's how that works. Okay. Strings and integers. We're going to go down here, and I am going to show you the remainder data types. I just wanted to spend more time on the two that you'll be dealing with the most, which are strings and integers. So we can fly through the rest of these. I'm going to say, what we got? We got A, B. So let's do C. C. Let's see. Bar. C. Note. Say 5.7. say, what's the last data type? Boolean. Var. Yeah, CEG. Boolean equals true. Okay. So that is the proper way to write floats, doubles, Boolean statements. 5.7, 29.4, and true. Good deal. So, go down here. More. And let's see here. So let's go. Let's print. C, E, and G. C, G. All right. So we'll go C. E. That's 29. So C, 5. I turned that into it, and you see how I turned that float into an integer? Okay. E, double. Yeah. E is a double. And that was 29.4. We turned it from a double to an integer. Now it's 29. Okay. And we can even go one further with E. Say print int. We used the round keyword for E. Boop, 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 boop. So if I even took this out, if I said print round, I took the ENT out, the INT, I'm sorry. I have to knock off a bracket. Then you would have E as a double still. It would be 29.0. And to get rid of that decimal, you want to transform it into an integer. And see, that drops the decimal off. Okay. We didn't do a whole lot of Boolean. Boolean is, like I said, true or false. You let Swift know if something is true or false in one of your statements or one of your functions. And usually that's going to be, we're going to go through more of that when I get into the if, else if lesson, um, which is tomorrow. So we'll do that. There's also, other than true and false and yes and no, there's also a way that, like I said, this, while this does mean equal to, that the way we know, it also can check Boolean for certain things. So right now, if I say C equals 5, you see, I'm saying, oh, I don't think so. But if I say C equals 5.7, then you get true. So that's how you check with Boolean as well. So that is going to cover our data types. Stay in your playground, practice how to change, not assign, but convert strings and integers. Um, Definitely make sure you have these. This is how you use them. These are the words you use. And that's the format. If you have any questions, just send me some comments. If you know anybody else trying to learn how to code, um, just let them know about my channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow when we talk about if and else if statements. See you then.